Hey, you made it. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself, where I share stories about my reluctant and courageous journey into understanding my emotions. I'm super glad you're here. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button so you can follow along as the adventure unfolds. And if you love this podcast, share it with your friends. This week's topic was about mistakes and innovation, and how mistakes can be the secret weapon of innovation. In the first video, I talked about how I made a mistake and I thought it was the worst thing ever. It's probably like not just I made a mistake, but I was a mistake. In the next video, I talked about a time when I made a mistake and I realized I could innovate. In the third video, I focused on a time I started to get excited about making mistakes because I realized I could innovate. Then we meditated, and in this video that I lovingly call the Fridity, I'm going to share with you a parable about this week's topic, mistakes, the secret weapon of innovation, along with explaining a little bit of what happened inside of me and what I've learned as I studied up on mistakes and innovation. So here's the parable. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and fertile fields, there lived a potter renowned for his exquisite ceramics. The potter, named Elian, created pieces so beautiful they seemed to contain the very essence of nature. A blue so deep it mirrored the sky, a green as vibrant as the new spring grass. One day, when Elian was crafting a set of delicate cups, he was distracted by the laughter of children playing outside. His hand slipped ever so slightly, causing a cup to warp out of shape. Disheartened by the imperfection and considering it ruined, Elian set it aside and finished the rest with great care. Later that week, at the village market, a traveler stopped by Elian's stall. Amidst the flawless symphony of ceramics, the warped cup caught the traveler's eye. It was unique, the way it spiraled toward the sky, its edge undulating like the hills that hugged the village. Seeing interest in the traveler's eyes, Elian explained the cup was a mistake. To his amazement, the traveler insisted that it was perfect exactly as it was. Not in spite of its imperfections, but because of them. The traveler saw a cup that told a story, that stood out, that was innovative in its own accidental way. The traveler's words stayed with Elian long after the market closed. The next time he sat at his wheel, he did so with a new perspective. He began to experiment, to let his hands make mistakes, to allow each piece to become whatever it wanted to be. Elian's work became more varied, more interesting, and more sought after than ever before. So I'm going to talk a little bit about making mistakes. And in the third video of the week, I talked about how I had created this show and I had come up with a plan. I was going to release a video every week, and, we were going to release shorts from each video, and we had a lot of content. And over time, it became more and more overwhelming to keep up with all of the content. That's a lot of recording. And at first I started to think, but this is, this is what the plan was. And because it's the plan, it needs to stay the plan, and I need to keep following through. And I realized I was having difficulty with keeping up with that. And so while I don't know exactly what next week is going to look like yet, I know that there will be at least one video that goes out that lets you guys know how I'm making sense of myself. So that's because I have to innovate. I have to get creative in how I'm doing this, because it's not sustainable the way it is, which basically just means I need to pivot and do something differently. Now, if this were back when, I don't know, even probably a year or so ago, that would have been wrong. I would have been wrong for setting it up the way that I thought it needed to be set up. And that's not true. Like, at that point in time, it made sense. And doing this show has helped me so much to understand myself and to get to be authentic and share it with you guys, because that actually scared me. I was terrified to do things like that. And now it's like, okay, it's like that song on The Greatest Showman. This is me. And yeah, I mess up and I get things wrong, and I get scared, and I get excited, and I get happy, and I try to live from the heart. But I think I was always worried about that judgment and what was going to come back and at me, and that there was going to be something wrong with that, because I had this idea that I needed to be perfect. So I couldn't have made mistakes. Now I make them all the time. And I'm talking about like wise mistakes or well thought out mistakes, or sometimes I like to look at them as experiments, because when I make a mistake that is, how do I want to put this, that I've thought, I've done my best to think through the process. I've learned, I've asked questions, and I've set things up to be successful, and it still doesn't work out. I can look at it as like, that's surprising. Maybe I need to change something, because what works for someone else. So let's say I went and asked all these questions of all these people around me, and then I took all that information in and I came up with what I thought was going to work. That's a well thought out experiment. And then let's say it didn't work. Okay, well, now we could say that's a mistake, which maybe it is, but we also know that or at least me, I did everything I could to create a successful endeavor and things like that. And clearly I need to pivot, because that's not sustainable. I just need to innovate. So I think a lot of times it's what works well for you or me is different for everyone. Excuse me. The other thing I wanted to talk about excuse me, was that when we innovate, sometimes, now I am a big fan of innovation and trying new things. I also have to remember that sometimes innovating means I break something first, or using the same word, I might make a mistake first. That's okay. Like, I can innovate and fall back to what I know was working and then try again. Or there are times when, like in businesses, people bring up ideas and they try ideas, and maybe it was the wrong time, and years later someone comes in and another person might say, oh, well, we already tried that and it didn't work, but then for some reason they end up trying it and it works. So it might just also be the time. Sometimes we don't know. What we do know is that we influence our lives and of our own lives and the lives of those around us. So don't be afraid to innovate. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you are, it's okay. I still personally don't like making mistakes, or what I perceive as mistakes, and I still get nervous when I innovate. So hence why it took me so long to say, hey, I need to change something. And I think I can look at it right in this moment as I'm telling you and kind of be like, that's pretty comical and ironic, but it's just the way it is, because, hey, I'm just trying to make sense of myself just like you. So in closing, from all this turmoil, what do we glean? A world full of promise on a slate wiped clean. Innovation, the gift from the mistakes we dread, bearing fruits of the future where we all can tread. So tune in completely, absorb every word. This is not just my story, but ours, rest assured. Together we'll learn how our errors can bless, with each slip a chance to recalibrate and address. Keep listening wholly for benefits untold. In these minutes we share, life's secrets unfold. I'm Angela, here in our sense-making quest for in mistakes, dear friends, innovations. Innovation does rest. Like, share, comment below. you can let me know what topics. Again, I don't know what the next few weeks. I don't know how the innovation, what the show is going to do, but I always love hearing from you guys, and I do. When you send over a topic, it actually gives me something to look for throughout the week. So please send it over. I'm more than happy to investigate, and then yeah, I'll see you next week. Let's do this together. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself.